Hey guys. Hi, my name is Debbie. Welcome to my channel. We are on day 6 of the George Pino trial, the South Florida real estate developer that ran his boat into a channel marker and unalived a 17-year-old girl, Lucy Fernandez, and permanently disabled another 17-year-old. Forgot her first name, last name's Pueg. And he is on trial for vessel homicide and manslaughter that each carry a maximum of 15 years. Pino is a commercial real estate professional and entrepreneur, leading real estate venues including State Street Realty, Commercial Brokers International, and OPM Investments. Pino serves as CEO of State Street Realty, a commercial real estate firm in South Florida. Sorry about that, y'all. It is a real estate brokerage, land development, and property management company. Pino co-founded Commercial Brokers International, a boutique commercial brokerage to provide full-service real estate solutions. Pino co-founded OPM Investments, LLC, a real estate holding property management company. Before that, he worked at Kennedy Wilson. He managed closings and the opening of offices in other states. Wow. Absolutely nothing I'm interested in. Hey, Ken. Hey, Jen. Hey, Judy. Thank you guys for being here. Hello, lurkers. Hello, replay crew. Oh, I like her outfit today. Hey, Michelle.
Good morning, Judge Howard Strudnick, together with Mark Shapiro, Ed Armelino, Janelle Gomez. On behalf of George Pino, also the counsel's table is our expert, Christopher Carentz, because I believe the state's expert is testifying this morning.
Don't forget to like the video, guys.
All right.
Yay, Marty.
We were all very busy over the weekend doing some work and research addressing the potential jury instructions. But I think the issue for this morning briefly will be to address the scope of what would be the next witness's testimony. And having to do with the testimony regarding the navigational rules.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning again. The state's position is this. Number one, at no time will we ask the state's next witness, Paul Albert, any questions about whether, in his opinion, the defendant violated any navigational rules. So that's off the table. But because he has been an instructor for so many years in boating safety courses and in fact in training other Marine Patrol type officers about the navigational rules. And because it is the law that navigational rules must be followed, it was simply my intention to ask him to outline what some of what the navigational rules are and have him explain they are basically the quote unquote rules of the road for those that are operating vessels. And then I was just going to ask him about a few of the navigational rules that I think are applicable to this case, specifically Navigational Rule 5, which mandates that, I'm sorry, Judge. Rule 5, which mandates that those operating vessels must keep a proper lookout. Rule 6, which mandates that vessels must be operated at a safe speed for the prevailing conditions. Rule 7, which provides that operators of vessels must take every precaution to avoid the risk of a collision. And Rule 8, which provides that operators of vessels must take every precaution that they can to avoid any kind of a collision. That would be toward the front of his testimony, Your Honor. And then from there, I will begin to go through, his crash reconstruction analysis, the actual extraction of data from the SIMRAD or GPS devices, what his interpretation of that data means, et cetera. But at no time will he say that the defendant violated any of these 4 rules.
Huh?
So let's talk generally though about, and this flows into the issue of the jury instructions as well.
I'm still having trouble hearing you.
This flows into the issue of the jury instructions as well. And I received the defense memo on this point. And do you want to just summarize your position, counsel?
Yes. So this witness is going to be, I guess, trying to lay the law down, which is the court's responsibility. And so we've outlined our position with regard to that issue. The leading case we found was a case called Logan.
Oh, you're eating it now. Okay.
And so we
Why
filed
are
a
you
pleading
barking
on
at
that over the weekend, and we would ask that the court simply exclude all of this testimony about rules. Alternatively, there'll come a point in time where the court would, if it's admitting the evidence, give a limiting instruction on how to assess those rules, that mere violation of a navigation rule does not constitute recklessness or culpable negligence, and there are proposed jury instructions on those points. And I understand what the state is saying is that in all events, if the court's going to admit allow the witness to testify, the witness will not be giving any opinions about violations of the rule, and consistent with the state's pretrial motion in limine, will not be asking the witness to give an opinion on whether the operator drove recklessly or culpably negligent, or give any opinion at all about the ultimate issue. So I'll be expecting that will be enforced. Stand by, Judge.
And that's really, the second point that you made, that's really the issue. While it will be over defense objection, I'm going to allow the witness to testify in general about navigational rules, the purpose of navigational rules.
What are you barking at?
Under the circumstances.
Oh, you want me to go get your bed?
Case. But
All right.
I am going to be very clear
I'll
to
go
the
get
jury so they are not misled by information of a testimony regarding navigational rules, ultimately the instruction of the navigation rules, because there is a violation of the navigational rule does not rise to the level of the type of recklessness by statute in order to find anyone guilty of felony. And I was kind of playing around with different types of instructions, but I am going to be ready to give the jury a limiting instruction at the outset of the testimony, or the point of the testimony. I guess it would be after he's sworn, and after maybe there's some initial questioning of the witness as to, once he starts to discuss navigation rules. So I'm actually both want to help me with that. I understand it's a defense objection, but I am going to allow testimony as long as the witness has been instructed that he is not to give any kind of opinion as to whether or not any navigation rules have been broken, and his interpretation of whether the conduct was or wasn't, Mr. Pino.
He will not, Judge.
Okay.
He will not.
So I couldn't hear that last part.
Whatever the conduct was or wasn't of Mr. Pino is not to give any kind of opinion or statement on the reasonableness of Mr. Pino's conduct.
And so he will not, the witness, be describing anything as, quote, inherently dangerous or anything like that.
No, that's
Correct.
not, that is not, he is not permitted to do that. He's going to provide the information, his knowledge about the information, and that should be the extent. Now, you've outlined 4 specific rules.
Yes, Judge.
Okay, so there's going to be testimony in general about navigation rules,
Correct.
rules of the road,
Yes.
and then maybe more specifically, but again, this is not, it has to be clear to the jury.
To that end, Your Honor, I know the court was on the bench. When I got the defense motion, I think it was Saturday evening, I took time yesterday to start working on it, but I wasn't able to finalize a response to their reply, and I did file an amended motion for a special jury instruction. And cutting to the chase, Judge, what I would say is this. The Logan case that the defense cites does not per se prohibit the jury from being instructed on, for example, in Logan, there were instructions about running a red light or running a stop sign, things that had happened well before the actual fatal event had happened. And in Logan, the court said that it is not necessarily, and they emphasize the word necessarily, error to instruct the jury on violations of safety statutes in a culpable negligence case, but that proper instructions which advise the jury how to use these statutory violations in evaluating culpable negligence are necessary. They then go on to cite with approval an instruction that was given in a 1972 North Carolina case, but essentially what the court wound up doing, and I quoted from that case in my response, that if an unintentional violation of a statute accompanied by reckless or probable consequences of a dangerous nature, when tested by the rule of reasonable foresight, is not such negligence as imports criminal responsibility. However, if the inadvertent, that is, or the unintentional violation of a prohibitory statute, which I would argue the navigational rules are, be accompanied by reckless or probable consequences of a dangerous nature, when tested by the rule of reasonable foresight, amounting altogether to a thoughtless disregard of consequences or a heedless indifference to the rights and safety of others, then such negligence, if death proximately ensues, would be criminal negligence and the actor would be guilty of manslaughter. We talk a little bit differently now than in 72. So what I tried to do is take that language that was approved of in Logan, and this is what I propose for the court to instruct the jury regarding the navigational rules. In the state of Florida, the law requires operators of vessels upon its waters to follow the navigational rules. However, a violation of any of these rules is not sufficient by itself to constitute culpable negligence or recklessness. In order for you to include a violation of any of these rules in your deliberations, you must also find that such a violation was accompanied by a thoughtless disregard of consequences or an indifference to the safety of others and caused or contributed to the cause of Luciana Cristina Fernandez. And I think that kind of bridges the gap between telling the jury just to ignore the navigational rules, which of course can't be done in any scenario, including when we're talking about court proceedings, but it also does not make the mere violation of those rules in and of itself per se reckless or culpable negligence.
Well, with the violation of the navigational rules, they're designated as non-criminal infractions for careless operations or simple negligence.
Right, just like running a stop sign is not criminal, it's an infraction. But certainly if we were trying a vehicular homicide case and part of the recklessness of the driver was that he or she ran a stop sign, is the state not allowed to talk about the fact that the person ran a stop sign? If you ran a stop sign and that proximately caused the death, in addition to other factors, the jury should be allowed to take into account the fact that the person ran a stop sign.
I mean, again, you have to still prove the higher threshold of the culpable negligence or recklessness, and the jury has to understand that that is your burden and responsibility.
Of course, but that's why this instruction that I've crafted says a violation of any of these rules is not sufficient by itself to constitute culpable negligence or recklessness. So the court is advising the jury, you can't find him guilty just because he's violated navigational rules, but it should be a factor to take into account.
It can be a factor.
Yes, and in order for you to include a violation in your deliberations, you must also find that it was accompanied by a thoughtless disregard of consequences or an indifference to safety of others and caused or contributed to the cause of, in this case, Lucy Fernandez.
So a couple things. First, I think we may be in a better position just to give just a vanilla instruction without getting into the elements of recklessness and or culpable negligence.
I thought for purposes of the witness testimony, this, what you're describing here, and I was working on it also this week as everyone else, I think has the basic principles. Why don't we craft something that perhaps is a little more basic that I can instruct the jury on? So, you have a suggestion?
The state's suggestion would be that perhaps prior to Mr. Albert testifying, the court advised the jurors that they may hear testimony about navigational rules. The violation of any navigational rule by itself does not constitute recklessness nor culpable negligence.
And it's I can maybe include they're explicitly designated as non-criminal infractions.
Why did they need to know that?
May hear testimony about navigational rules, violation of the navigational rule.
A violation of navigational rule or rules does not by itself constitute recklessness nor culpable negligence. I think that puts it into context. It's simple, it's straightforward, it's an accurate statement of the law, and it limits the jurors from thinking, oh my goodness, we are now hearing what these navigational rules are. We're seeing with our eyes evidence that substantiates that the defendant may have violated those rules, ergo he's automatically guilty. This keeps them from doing that.
It should also be clear, given the case law at Logan, that even a violation of the navigational rule does not necessarily establish negligence. You can violate a rule without putting anybody in danger. So for example,
I don't know if that's.
yeah, it's not every time, for example, to use so not every failure of a rule will cause a breach of a duty of care to another person, because that's what typically these rules are designed to do. Let's say a safe speed. If you exceed the speed limit by 1 mile per hour, that's not necessarily negligent, because at 35 miles per hour doesn't constitute.
That it wouldn't rise to blood even if it's simple negligence.
Correct.
To that end, Judge, the defendant is not charged with any offense that negligence is the standard for. The defendant is charged with conduct that would either be reckless and or culpably negligent. So bringing in negligence of itself is really not pertinent to the charges that the defendant is facing. So
Are there any, ultimately, I don't know if there are any lessons that would be instructed on in this case?
Well, that's still something to be decided once we hear the testimony, because,
Well, that also, yeah, why would I be bringing in any, simple negligence?
because the word culpable negligence sounds a lot to a jury like negligence. And they need to understand there's degrees of negligence,
Okay.
and that a violation of the rule may
A
not
higher
even rise.
threshold. It's a higher threshold of evidence.
Correct, but even the basic rule violation may not be conclusive of negligence. Like I just said, 36 miles an hour in a 35 zone is not
Or like
necessarily negligent.
running a
Because some rules are
stoplight when
enforced
there's nobody else there
based
in the
on
middle of the
public
night.
policy, but not necessarily evincing a disregard of the care of someone else. Otherwise, you get the point.
Major testimony about navigational rules, the violation of navigational rules does not.
In and of itself
In and of itself.
constitute
Constitute.
recklessness.
And or culpable negligence.
I would say recklessness and or culpable negligence.
And so my request would be to add,
Hold on a minute.
You writing a book? Does Florida have Son of Sam laws? I bet they do.
What was that?
so a violation of a navigational rule is not conclusive evidence of even ordinary negligence.
Okay.
I thought we were trying to simplify this. Why are we bringing into this trial a standard that is not what is charged? It makes it more confusing. We're not talking about if he's negligent or not. I would suggest as an alternative to that, that the court consider something along the lines of any alleged violation of or any possible navigational rule violation is only one factor to take into account in determining whether the defendant was reckless or culpably negligent. But otherwise, I just think it's more than sufficient to tell the jurors that this is a violation of a navigational rule or even violation of multiple navigational rules does not in and of itself constitute reckless or culpably negligent behavior. And it just seems like the most basic, simple way to explain it to a jury. And certainly we can flesh that out more in the final instructions that the court gives. But for the purposes of giving the jurors a heads up of how to interpret the testimony they're about to hear, it's an accurate statement of the law.
You know what, I'm comfortable with just with the simple sentence there, and then in final instructions, there's going to be more explanation about, and will depend on whether there's going to be any lessers requested. Any lessers requested as well, it's going to depend on that as well. So I think that I'm going to wait for any further conversation, that any of the detail, I don't want to confuse the jury, and I think that's simple enough not to mislead them as well.
One more. So Judge, we understand you've overruled our request, and we'll, I guess, readdress this at the final instruction phase. And I don't know how long Mr. Albert will be testifying on direct, but I would request that when he's done, we could take a break then, so I can confer with our expert.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. So, I think that was the only matter before the witness comes in to testify.
Great.
Ready?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Florida does have a Son of Sam law, but it is, hey
All
Jill,
rise.
it is modified. Any proceeds that they make, so they can do it. Any proceeds that they make, though, go to restitution to victims or to the court or whatever. So, but just because he's taking a lot of notes doesn't necessarily mean he's writing a book. But he is writing an awful lot.
All right, thank you, everyone, please be seated. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
How are you all doing today? Good. A good weekend. All right, anyone discussing this case with anyone else? How about seeing anything in the news about this case or on social media or live stream, television? Has anyone attempted to speak with you or in your presence about the case? You're all wearing your juror badges well displayed? Has anyone conducted any independent
No.
research or
Oh.
investigation to attempt to gather information? All right, very well. Ladies and gentlemen, you are ready to proceed. State your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state will call Paul Alabama.
Yeah. Travis came in. Travis was telling me about that yesterday after the worm dream the night before. I was like, great. Thanks a lot, Travis. Yeah. Where are they, Judy? But they're getting pets, though, he said. They're not getting humans, are they? Now I gotta Google the screw worm.
Mr. Torrance, one.
Do you swear affirm testimony about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Morning, Your Honor.
Voice up. Microphone is this way, jury is this way, so we'll have to speak a little bit louder.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Your Honor, may I proceed, please? Thank you. Could you please introduce yourself to the members of our jury?
Good morning. My name is Paul Albert.
Can you tell us what is it that you do for a living?
My full-time job, I'm a lieutenant with the Town of Palm Beach Police Department, where I serve as the internal affairs investigator.
Can you tell us a little bit about the background and experience you've had with that police agency?
Sure. I started with Palm Beach in 2006.
It's fly
and
larva?
as a patrol officer, I've worked road patrol. I worked road patrol most of my time there, but I've had special assignments on the Marine unit and on the field force team.
Hold up. It's fly larva? The New World screw worm. Well, that? Oh, that's nasty. That is disgusting. Be careful, y'all. Don't let any flies land on you and lay eggs.
I've
What's a
done-
field force team?
So field force is we respond to we have Mar-a-Lago in our jurisdiction, and so we have protests. So the field force team is the team that handles crowd control, protests, and those types of things. I served as the field force commander for a bit as a sergeant. I worked as a detective. I've been a sergeant on road patrol as you know, a frontline supervisor, also enrolled as a lieutenant, as a watch commander in charge of overall patrol operations on night shift. And then I've been in internal affairs now for 4 years.
Were you ever a member of the dive team for that agency?
I still am.
Okay,
Yes.
what did that entail?
Ew.
Diving.
For fun?
No, we do. We've done some evidence recovery. We've done lately. There's been a big push for illegal anchoring and mooring, and so our dive team will go out and take pictures underwater of illegal mooring structures, and we've removed a lot of illegal mooring structures. So
All
there's a little
Judy's
bit of
fault.
everything.
Judy's fault this
Before
time.
you went to the town of Palm Beach Police Department, were you involved in another law enforcement agency?
Yes.
What was that?
So I started my career right out of college with what was then the Florida Marine Patrol, what's now the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission,
Also known as FWC.
FWC.
How long were you with FWC?
I was with FWC from 1993 to 2006.
Can you tell us about your evolution of your career there?
Sure. Almost entirely patrol officer, frontline. The whole time working on boats in a marine capacity. And I spent the first 5 years on the West Coast in the Naples area, Marco Island, patrolling Naples down through the 10,000 Islands, Everglades National Park, and offshore. And then the last 7.
I don't know why I'm
in
looking
Palm
at
Beach
these
County.
things.
And I did a lot of work for FWC. I was a field training officer, so I trained new officers. I was an academy instructor for DUI and DUI, for vessel operations and vessel boardings. I was one of the agency's subject matter experts on marine electronic devices,
What do you mean marine electronic devices?
like GPSs, radar, navigational tools, electronic navigational tools. I was on the boat selection committee, like the boats was deciding on which boats the agency should use for patrol boats.
In addition to the police job that you currently have, do you have a private consulting agency?
I do,
Could you please tell the jurors about that?
yes. It really grew out of mostly my teaching gig. So I do a lot of instruction outside of work, primarily in marine law enforcement field. Even though I left marine law enforcement in 2006, I never really left marine law enforcement. It's always been like my passion. So I teach classes for the National Association of State Boating Law Administrators, and it started with that really as a I work as an independent contractor for them, so I figured it'd be best to go put it under a business. But then I've pretty much, since I left FWC, have still been assisting FWC with boating accident investigations with GPS forensics. And over the years, I was getting more and more calls to do stuff like I'm doing right now, testifying in court and assisting. And over the past few years, I've started branching into a little bit of civil liability cases too. So all that kind of falls under my business.
Will you occasionally be hired to evaluate a boating crash and, render opinions about how the crash occurred, what things could have been done to prevent the crash, and write reports about your findings?
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit also about any recreational boating experience you've had.
Sure.
Can you tell the jurors about that?
I'm born and raised Floridian in West Palm Beach. I mean, the hospital I was born is right on the Intracoastal Waterway, and I started boating at an early age. I started running boats on my own in my early teenage years. I was operating boats before I could operate a car. I owned my first boat before I owned my first car. I've operated boats from all the way out to the Dry Tortugas off Key West, all the way up through the Panhandle of Florida, from the backwaters of the Everglades out to 100 miles plus offshore, along the Western Bahamas, every conceivable manner of condition, from the most beautiful, spectacular days to the most terrifying, unbelievably rough, lightning cracking down around me, scared out of my wits days.
Can you tell the jurors a little bit about your educational background and your training?
Sure. I have a degree in criminology from Florida State University, a master's degree in organizational leadership from Florida Atlantic University. I'm sorry, Palm Beach Atlantic University. I went to the Marine Patrol Academy right out of college, and then I got my captain's license in my 20s, I think around 27 or so. I went to sea school to learn the ins and outs of the requirements for passing the Coast Guard exam. I've been to all manner of training related to marine law enforcement, accident reconstruction. I learned boating accident reconstruction in the academy, and then through an advanced level course that the agency put on internally for its own officers. I've been to the NASBLA, National Association of State Boating Law Administrators, Level 1 and Level 2 advanced course. I'm now a subject matter expert for the Level 2 course and teach GPS forensics for the Level 2 course. I've been to DUI instructor school. I'm sure I'm missing a lot.
I want to ask you if a couple of months ago, so you wound up going to a training environment in Tennessee, and if you could tell the jurors a little bit about that.
Sure. So, well, it wasn't a training environment, so to speak. It was we were doing work to improve our training delivery. So it was actually the second time that I've done it, but the time most recently was just a few weeks ago, beginning of May. We went to Nashville and we conducted staged boat collisions. And it's Coast Guard grant funded and through NASBLA and some of the states. And we got boats and motors that were donated to us from Mercury Marine. And so my portion of it was, of course, GPS forensics. I installed GPSs from all the major manufacturers in each of the boats that we intentionally crashed. And then we had, we put all manner of GoPro cameras in every conceivable location. We had drone footage. We had crash dummies with G sensors on them, all to gather data so that we could further our own knowledge about boating accident investigation and also for training. And then these boats, we did 3 separate scenarios. In these boats, we use in the Level 2 class, the Advanced Boat Crash Reconstruction course. It's project based, so the students come in and they get several days of training, and then the students are teamed up in groups, and they're assigned 2 boats, and so that the students go out and they inspect the boats and they inspect the damage, and they're given the GPS data that was recovered from the boats, and then they do their own independent analysis, and they're required to do like a PowerPoint presentation in front of the class as kind of their final project to finish the class.
You mentioned something about the National Association of State Boating Law Administrators.
Yes.
NASBLA.
NASBLA.
It's a mouthful, right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about your work with that agency in terms of forensic GPS analysis?
Yes. So, excuse me. So NASBLA is an organization comprised of representatives from all 50 states and every U.S. territory that work specifically on boating safety initiatives all around the country. They have a program, the BOAT program, that teaches. They have a menu of courses that they deliver to local, state, and federal law enforcement. And so a couple of years after I left FWC, NASBLA came to me and asked if I could produce a GPS forensics course for their organization, which I did. And so that course has been in place since 2013, and it's kind of a one-of-a-kind course, and we teach to state, local, and federal law enforcement all around the country. We have an ongoing contract now with the Coast Guard. I'm teaching 3 classes a year to Coast Guard personnel. I've taught it at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center to the instructors at FLETC. I've delivered the course to Homeland Security and Secret Service in DC. And I don't know what the tally is for state and locals, but hundreds and hundreds of officers around the states.
How did you get so invested, I guess, in GPS data and recovery of it and analysis of it?
Funny enough, it grew out of my passion for fishing. When I was living in Naples, I started doing a lot of offshore fishing there, and this is in the mid '90s. And the legacy previous navigation system that boaters used was Loran. And in the mid '90s, GPS started to come on scene, and I had all my fishing spots in Loran coordinates, and I was trying to figure out how I could convert all these Loran coordinates into GPS latitude and longitude. And I started experimenting with some computer programs that were out there, even in those early days. And although I was unsuccessful in being able to convert all my fishing spots, I realized that the GPS devices generated and stored a lot of really relevant data to me as a marine conservation officer and boating accident investigator. And so I started using it in my day-to-day work, and then it kind of grew and grew and grew and grew. But it started internally and just using it on my cases. Then I was helping other officers with their cases. And then I started helping other agencies. And it just kept on building.
Over the years, since you were looking for the fishing spots
Yes.
with using GPS, have you seen the development of GPS technology develop?
It's unbelievable, the technology that we have today. I mean, when I started, the GPS devices and the Loran devices that I was using, literally.
Have you seen the development of GPS technology develop? That don't make no sense, lady. What kind of question is that? Have you seen the development of GPS technology develop? Okay.
He would tell me I need to. There's literally an arrow that would point. You need to turn left and you turn right to stay on a straight course, and you're basically on a straight course. You can now integrate these newer systems have bird's eye view imagery on them. You can overlay radar. You can put all the navigational data and the markers, the channels, and everything on there. You can integrate it with your autopilot system and literally push a button, and the boat will drive you to a fishing spot. And when I first started, when we would go out to a fishing spot, some of the spots over on the West Coast it's critically important that you get really close so you're dropping your lines to like a small wreck or small ledge or a hole. So accuracy is critical. So back then, there was a feature in place with the GPS system called selective availability, where the government used to degrade the system for civilian users. And what we would have to do is go out and we would drop a buoy on the given location on the GPS, and we would do kind of a search pattern off of that to locate the actual spot that we knew was there somewhere in that close proximity, and drop a second buoy on that, fish that. Now with the current system, with differential options that are incorporated into the GPSs, you're literally most of the time within a couple of meters of the spot. So essentially, when your GPS tells you you're there, it's under your boat. It's right there.
Have you ever used GPS in your car?
I do, yeah.
Would you say that GPS that you use, like with Waze or with maps, is as good as GPS that would be used on a boat?
GPS is GPS regardless. The system is working off the signals from Department of Defense satellites, and the system is really good. And so the quality of what you're seeing on the screen depends a little bit on the quality of the device and how good it can read the signals, and also the quality of the map that you're projecting the data onto. The data is good. The question is how good is the map that you're projecting onto it.
Well, let's talk a little bit then about whether or not, even as good as the data is from GPS, if it's ever safe for a person who's operating a boat to just rely on that GPS data.
It's not prudent anytime to rely on one source of information to navigate. You should always be looking at using all available means to navigate safely.
Are you familiar with a term called the navigational rules?
Yes,
Can you explain to the members of the jury, have you ever trained anyone in the navigational rules?
I have.
Can you explain a little bit about that?
Sure. So one of the courses that I teach for NASBLA is the boat crew member course, and it's Coast Guard curriculum. It's the same course that they teach to their guys when they're learning how to be a crew member on a boat and how to operate a boat. Basic boating 101, from dropping an anchor to pulling away from the dock. But we talk about the navigation rules in the basic crew member course.
Are the navigational rules required to be followed by anybody that's boating in the waters of the state of Florida?
Everywhere, yes.
Oh, there's just
Where
a
do those
guideline.
navigational rules come from?
So there's
More of a
two sets.
guideline, really.
There's the international and the inland. And the international has been in place since 1972, and it was agreed upon by international agreement. And then the inland rules, which very closely mirror the international rules with a few minor differences. They were adopted, I think, in 1980 by Congress, and it applies to all boats on U.S. waters, on the inland waters. And then most of the individual states have adopted the federal rules as part of their state laws.
Do you have to take a test like you do for a driver's license to prove that you know the navigational rules?
Unfortunately, no. Well, let me back up a little bit. If you were born, I think the date is January 1st, 1988 or 89. If you're born after that date in the state of Florida, you have to take a boater safety test and get a boater safety ID card.
No, she doesn't.
Those courses range from an online to an in-person.
No, she's
But
got RPF.
it's not a license per se. If Paul was making the rules, you would have to have a license to operate a boat in the state of Florida.
I want to ask you about navigational rule 5. Are you familiar with that rule?
Let me go ahead and instruct the jury.
Yes, Judge, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear some testimony about navigational rules. I am instructing you that violation of a navigational rule or rules does not in and of itself constitute recklessness and or culpable negligence.
Thank you, Judge. Are you familiar with navigational rule number 5?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jurors, what is navigational rule number 5?
Navigation Rule 5 is often referred to as the first rule of boating, and it is lookout. And essentially, Navigation Rule 5 says you have to watch where you're going all the time, and you have to use all available means, including sight and hearing and any other available means to you to determine if there's a risk of collision.
Okay. Are you familiar with navigational rule number 6?
Yes.
Please explain what that rule is.
Navigation Rule 6 is titled Safe Speed. And Navigation Rule 6 says that everybody is required to operate at a safe speed. And that speed is determined by your ability to see and recognize potential for collision and have time to take action to avoid a collision.
Are you familiar with navigational rule number 7?
Yes.
What is that rule?
Navigation Rule 7 kind of dovetails with Navigation Rule 5, and it says that you have to use all available means to assess the risk of collision. And so in many ways, it's a lot like Rule 5 for the lookout. It just goes into greater detail, saying that you have to use all available means at your disposal to identify a potential risk of collision. And then it goes into some further detail about the use of electronic devices, navigation systems, specifically radar and radar settings.
What about navigational rule 8? Can you explain what that rule provides.
Navigation Rule 8 says that you have to, in addition to the other rules, you have to take early and substantial action to avoid a collision. So on the waterways, it's not always easy to determine what the guy that's coming towards you is going to do or what their intentions are. It's not like the road where you have, traffic lanes and dividers and medians and whatnot. And so it's not always readily available. So what Rule 8 says that you have to take early action and substantial action so that the other boat that's coming towards you understands what your intentions are. So you don't just make small course adjustments. You have to make big course adjustments so that the other boater can understand, hey, he's turning to the right or he's turning to the left.
Are you familiar with the term allision?
Yes.
ALLISION.
Yes,
Is an allision a type of collision?
it is.
Can you explain that?
Allision is really a nautical term, and it relates to a vessel that hits a fixed or stationary object.
Are you familiar with a body of water called the Cutter Bank Channel?
Yes,
Have you ever been there yourself?
I have.
Do the navigational rules that you've just described for us apply to boats operating through the Cutter Bank Channel?
The inland rules apply there.
So anyone operating through the Cutter Bank Channel would be expected under the laws of Florida to keep a proper lookout,
Yes,
also to operate for a safe speed for the conditions,
yes,
to keep lookout to avoid the risk of colliding with anything,
well, they're required to always assess the risk of collision
and also to avoid a collision with
and
anything,
take action to avoid a collision.
whether it's a boat or a fixed object.
Yes,
Okay. Is the Cutter Bank Channel a part of the Intercoastal Waterway?
it is.
Can you explain to the jurors, what is the ICW as it's sometimes referred to?
It's basically the nautical equivalent of I-95. It's a channel that runs along most of the eastern seaboard of the United States from, I think, New Jersey, all the way south around Florida, up the coast of Florida to Texas.
Now, the Cutter Bank Channel, did you ever measure how long it is?
It's about, it's a little less than 2 miles, about 1.5 mile and 3/4, 1.8, I think it is.
1.8 regular miles?
I think it's 1.8 statute miles, maybe 1.6 nautical. I have to
Okay.
give or take.
About how wide is it?
About 150 feet.
Is it considered under the rules a quote unquote narrow channel?
Yes.
Objection. Objection, Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay, even though it's, well, what, about how many feet wide would you say it is?
It depends on which part of it. I mean, I would say average between 150 and 170 feet
I mean,
wide.
that's
Yes.
a fair distance. Why would that be considered narrow under the rules?
Because you have to consider what the water looks like north and south of it. So Cutter Bank is a shallow bank across the southern end of Biscayne Bay, and it really is the southern boundary of Biscayne Bay. South of Cutter Bank is Card Sound. And so you have this shallow body of water, and then you have the dredged channel that goes right through the middle of it. And a lot of boats can only navigate through the marked channel where there's a known specific water depth. They can't cross the channel, or they can't cross the shallow parts of the bank. So you have, once you get through the channel, either going north or south, it opens up really wide. So it kind of, all the traffic funnels down into Cutter Bank channel and then opens up on the other side. And so you have to be there. You have all that channel being confined to this one section of waterway. And you have to take into consideration the maneuverability of those boats. Some of these might be motor yachts that need a substantial amount of space to maneuver. So that's why it would be considered a narrow channel.
When traversing a channel, there's not like a yellow painted line like we have on the roadways to separate who's on what side. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
But are there quote unquote rules of the road that dictate which side of a channel a vessel should be operating on?
Yes.
What is that?
You stay to the right.
Now, you're here today for a crash that involved a Robalo vessel that was about 29 feet long, and it had a hull ID of ROB like boy, S like Sam, 0144A919. Are you familiar with that vessel?
If it's the green Robalo vessel that I've been out to inspect, yes, I'd have to take your word for it on the, I don't have the whole ID number memorized.
You don't? Did you make a note of it in any of your reports, though?
I did, yes.
Okay. I won't hold you to the exact, but can you explain to the jurors, what is a hull ID?
It's like the VIN number on your car.
What do you mean?
It's a 12-digit number that's stamped into your boat. There's one obvious one on the back of the boat, and then there's always at least one concealed somewhere on the boat. And it's just a means of tracking and identifying boats.
I'm going to show you an exhibit that's in evidence. It's state number 68. You recognize this boat?
I do, yes.
And this is that Robalo?
Yes.
Did you personally inspect that vessel?
I did, yes.
Do you remember when?
September of this past year, I believe it was.
Okay.
I have to look at my notes.
If you need to look at your notes to
Sure.
refresh your memory, just let us know you're doing so. Just don't read from your
I
notes.
won't read
But
from
this
them.
isn't a
Yeah.
memory test.
Sure. I have it March 7th, 2025.
Okay. Were you the only person present for that inspection of the vessel?
No, defense counsel and some of their team were there as well.
Okay. And was Lieutenant Thompson there as well?
Yes.
For the record, I'm showing counsel states 5B. Yes. Okay. Mr. Albert, I'm showing you a flash drive, and it's got an evidence tag of it of 5V for identification. I want to ask you if you've reviewed the contents of this flash drive, and if they accurately depict either photographs that you've taken or seen, as well as videos, and also the GPS analysis that you conducted in this case.
Yes,
And how do you know that that jump drive contains those articles?
because I initialed it.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move 5V for identification and evidence.
I'm always on. Judge, subject to it being published, we have no authenticity objection. We'll just wait to see what is being offered.
Very well.
5B, marked for identification, State's Exhibit 114.
For the record, I have published states 5B in Ravala vessel. Your Honor, may the witness have permission to step down?
Yes.
What exhibit number are we on now?
This is States 5B, it's photograph number 1 on the jump drive.
It's.
Oh,
Image
it's
114.
114, sorry, 114.
So to clarify, this is States Exhibit in Evidence 114,
Photo 1.
Photo 1. Thank you.
Mr. Albert, does this photograph depict the Ravala vessel that you saw in March of last year?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you, let's go to the next photograph 2 on this exhibit. I noticed toward the bow of the boat, there's some plastic. Can you explain what that is?
That's the shrink wrap cover that's over the boat for time since the incident.
Also, I want to ask you, what kind of engines did that boat have?
Those are Yamaha outboard engines. I believe they're 300 horsepower each.
So now we can stop and I'm going to ask you some more questions. Did you make note of the length of this vessel?
Yes,
What was it?
it's 29 feet.
What is the beam of the vessel?
I believe it's 10 feet 6 inches.
What does beam mean when it comes to vessel anatomy?
The width of the boat at its widest point.
Does it have what's known as draft up and draft down?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jurors what is draft up and draft down?
The
And if you
outboard,
need to step
Sure.
down, if the witness has permission, if you need to step down to explain.
the motors on the back of the boat, they have a trim and tilt function. They can trim them up and trim them down. So draft up is the boat floating in water with the engines tilted up. Draft down is the boat floating in water with the engines trimmed all the way down.
Now, what would be the top speed essentially for a vessel of this structure equipped with two 300 horsepower engines? What would you expect the top speed of a vessel like that to be?
In the mid 50s.
Okay.
Their advertised, I think, speed in the documents is 54 to 55 under a test load.
Okay. What is a test load?
Probably a couple of guys on the boat with a small amount of fuel, maybe a half a tank of fuel. I don't know what their standard is for measuring, but probably not topped off with fuel with a lot of equipment on board. A light load.
Oh, so not a load of, say, 14 people?
Correct.
Did you bring a model boat with you so that you could
Yes.
explain to the jurors
I did.
what additional people on a vessel can do in terms of its ability to traverse through water?
Oh, please,
Sure.
that
So
boat is
how
rated
fast you can go on
14
the boat
people.
is dependent on the weight of the load
I
that's
did
carrying,
research
as
this
well as
weekend.
how the load is placed on the boat.
Okay. Can you show the jurors using that? And you can step a little closer. It's a long distance between you and the jurors.
Oh, now we won't
Can
be
you
able to hear it.
explain what, let's say if there was a total of 14 people on a vessel of this type of, I guess, configuration? You had a couple
I
people
did
here on the
research
back,
this
Yeah.
weekend. A
and then you had a couple
29-foot
people
Rapallo
on the
can
center
handle
console.
14
So
people.
that's going to be 4. So then you basically are going to have 10 people, 3 across the bench, and then the remaining 7 along the bow. Can you explain to the jurors how that's going to impact that vessel's ability to travel at top speeds?
Sure. So the overall performance of the boat is highly dependent on the friction that it encounters when it's running across the surface of the water. So under the test load that they're talking about, the boat is riding
It
kind
does
of
look like a bad toy, Jill.
on smooth surface of water, and really for the best performance, you're really just riding on the back half of the boat. The boat trimmed up, and the engine trimmed in a manner that the propeller is running parallel to the surface of the water, minimizing the friction of the bottom, with the bottom contact with the water. So when you place a heavy load on the bow, it pushes the bow down. And in addition to having to move more water overall, it's also pushing more surface area down for the boat to push through the water, and it slows the boat.
Okay. Now, for that particular robalo, is there a rule or a statute that governs how many people are allowed to be on that vessel when it is going through the waters?
So the Coast Guard mandates that anything less than 20 feet have a capacity plate affixed to it that tells you you're allowed to have X number of people and some particular amount of weight. The Marine Manufacturers Association, I think, as a standard, bumps that up to 26 feet. And so you'll see larger boats with capacity plate on them. And then above 26 feet, and this boat in particular is what they call yacht rated. So there's no numerical number that limits the boater's option to load it. Like there's not a capacity limit for people.
When you went to inspect this vessel in March of last year, did you actually go on the vessel?
I did.
Did you have the opportunity to envision 14 people, maybe not of your size,
Right.
but like 14 people,
Teeny tiny
maybe
teenagers.
shorter stature,
Yes.
some of whom are maybe 17-year-old girls,
Yes.
most of them 17-year-old girls. Could they all fit on that boat?
It'd be a tight squeeze.
But they could.
In theory, yes. Well, obviously they did, but yes.
Would having, even if the 10 girls that were in the front portion of the boat, would having 10 girls affect the ability of that boat to hit that 54 or 55 mile an hour top rated speed?
Absolutely.
In your opinion, would that add almost 1,000 pounds to the bow of the boat?
It would.
From having been on that vessel, did you ever stand like at the captain's helm or, where the operator of the boat would be?
Yes.
Did you have the opportunity to look and see whether there were any blind spots or things that would keep someone from seeing what's ahead of them?
There's a little bit, yes.
Okay. What is that?
May I?
Yes.
There's these support structures here that are holding the top up, and then
No, it's okay. Renee, thank you so much.
so
If
these
the-
structures-
Oh, can everybody see or no?
Yeah,
I just don't want you to have to keep.
No, it's okay. See the-
No, I got you.
You have the support structures that are holding up the T-top, and you also have to maintain a 360-degree lookout. So a little bit with these here, and when you're my size electronics box.
Okay. Is there any reason why the operator of that vessel can't see what's right in front of them?
No.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask if the court would please read Court Exhibit Number 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, a stipulation, the parties in this case have agreed to enter into a stipulation or agreement regarding the Robalo vessel which was involved in this case. The parties have agreed that on the date of September 4th, 2022, prior to impact with the channel marker, the vessel was in proper working order. That is marked as a court exhibit.
When you observed this vessel, was it at the FWC yard?
Yes.
When you did that, did you have the opportunity to review the damage to that vessel and try to assign that damage and to understand how that damage was basically, put into place as a result of a crash?
Yes, I did.
I'm gonna ask if you'd be able to step down for a moment and talk to us a little bit. For the record, I'm now going to show the jury photograph 3, front starboard damage. And I have this little pointer if you need to use it.
Yep.
Mr. Albert, can you talk to us about the initial point of impact, this vessel and the channel marker?
Yes. So this is the first contact right here. And then if you look carefully down here, there's this green is transferred from the dayboard, the green sign on top of this little beam, which is the channel marker. And you can see some black transfer from the actual steel pole. And then there's also black transfer and impact damage down here, diagonally stern, basically back down the boat.
What does that tell you about the actual movement of the vessel as it strikes that channel marker? And by the way, did you bring another boat to try to help explain this?
So,
I'll get that for you.
okay. And if you can grab the little can.
Sure.
Sorry. You want to pick up on the wrong side and get it for you?
That's okay.
Okay.
We got it. Go ahead.
Okay. Rock channel marker. So we know that the channel marker in this case stays upright, which is really surprising. You usually go down. But you have a straight up and down channel marker, but you have a diagonal impact. And the reason for that is because boats are made out of fiberglass and they respond a lot differently to the forces of an impact that's part of it. So a car is made of metal and it's crunches like that, and it stays crunched, right? A boat is made out of fiberglass, which is essentially plastic, like this plastic sheet, and it'll crunch, but then it'll try to return back to its normal condition. But what happened in this case is when this Robalo struck the channel marker, it hits kind of like this, but then the front of the boat flexes. It flexes upwards and probably twisted it to the right. And that's how you get this diagonal impact right here. And you have to imagine too that this green transfer is on this sign, which is on the top of the pole, and you got to picture in your head how high this boat had to, how much flex there was in here. It was incredibly powerful, a lot of force involved in this collision. And so the bow flexing upwards and twisting to the right, along with the boat continuing to push through the channel marker, and this channel marker going down inside of the boat is what causes the rest of this really just incredibly catastrophic damage outside of the boat.
Showing the jurors now photograph number 4. Can you explain to the jurors what this shows?
So this is a fiberglass matting that's on the inside of the boat. And then this is what's called gel coat, which is a nice shiny smooth surface on the outside. You can see that those have delaminated. This right here is called a lifting strake, and it's essentially like a V-shaped extrusion that comes out of the bottom of this boat. And what that does is it channels the water down all when you're accelerating and gives the boat like hydrodynamic lift to get it up on planes and steam across the surface of the water. So you can see that there's multiple cracks down this lifting strake, and that's from the flex of the bow of the boat causing separation and the loss of this chunk of gel coat along here.
Mr. Albert, I'm showing you state's exhibit number 11, which is in evidence, and it is a diagram of the seating charts for this Robalo on September 4th, 2022.
Yes.
On this diagram, if you're holding it with the valve, the boat at the top, where would the bulk of the damage be to that Robalo?
It starts right about here, and then it runs all the way down the side. Down here.
If that's the case, which passengers would you expect to see most likely to absorb some of that impact?
Everybody is absorbing the impact in this case, everybody. But the passenger seated along the starboard side here are closest to the force, and there you probably see a lot of force.
So the passenger that's number 10, you can come closer, 'cause that's a smaller exhibit. The passenger number 10, Abdi, passenger 9, Lucy, and passenger 2, Mia, would you expect them to have potentially more injuries than the people that were in the center console or on the port side of the vessel?
Yes.
And just finally, with this model day marker and this vessel, can you try to show to the jurors how the actual impact would have occurred? Or, I can't say definitively, you obviously weren't there,
Well,
but based on your examination of the evidence.
In order to really demonstrate it, this would have to be like flexible, right? And this is a rigid piece of plastic that I made with a 3D printer, so I can't truly show you what it is. But you have to imagine that the impact is right here, and the bow of this boat is gonna flex upwards like this, and it's gonna strike the sign and knock the sign off, and then it's gonna ride down the side of the boat as the momentum of the boat continues forward.
All right, now let's talk a little bit about GPS. You've spoken a bit about your experience teaching GPS, how you got involved in doing GPS analysis. Can you tell us about how many times you've downloaded data from a GPS device, analyzed it to determine what a boat's prior history tracks would be?
I don't have a running log, but it's hundreds and hundreds of times in cases that range from a murder trial in Palm Beach on the road using a road GPS to dozens and dozens of smuggling cases and hundreds of boating accidents.
In the case involving that Robalo vessel that we saw, were you contacted by FWC and asked to assist with recovering data from the navigation systems it had on board?
Yes,
When were you first contacted and asked to do that by FWC?
the day after the crash.
What was your understanding at that point of where the vessel was?
It was relayed to me that it was still in the water on the bottom of Biscayne Bay, and the initial inquiry was like, hey, we've got this boat and the GPSs are underwater. Do you think you can get data out of it?
Did you give them any suggestions or advice on what to do once that vessel was recovered from the waters of the bay?
Yes. Water intrusion alone in the GPS doesn't necessarily mean that it's broken. So I told them to, FWC didn't do the recovery. They had a contractor come out and do the recovery. But I told them to instruct the contractor to be really careful to not further damage, inflict any physical damage on the GPSs during the recovery process. And then I told them as soon as they got that boat on the trailer back at the dock that they needed to take those GPSs out of the boat and put them back in water and bring them up to me in water.
Why in water?
Okay. Like I said, water alone doesn't break the device. what breaks the device, especially with salt water, is corrosion. And corrosion can start taking effect immediately after it dries. So as soon as this device, if this device were allowed to dry, it could within hours, literally hours, start to corrode and cause problems that would be beyond my scope of being able to download it.
Were the navigation devices from that vessel in fact delivered to you?
Yes,
What brand of device was it?
they're SIMRADs.
Okay. When did you get those?
The day after they called me, so I believe it was the 6th of September.
Did you note the dates in your
I
report?
did, yes.
Again, it's not a memory test. If you need to look at your notes to remember
Sure.
details, it's
Yeah.
okay.
My bad. I got them on the 7th.
Okay.
Yep,
So you understand the crash happens on the 4th?
Yes.
FWC contacts you on the 5th.
yes,
The vessel is recovered or salvaged on the 6th, and then
Yes.
you get them that next day?
yes.
Can you describe for the members of the jury, what is the specific brand name of this device? I know you said they're SIMRADs. Do they have a model number?
It is, the model is a,
And the jury's not going to give a crap. I
it's an
know.
Evo
I don't give
3,
a crap, and I'm a pencil juror.
NSS is the model. Let's see here. The specific model is the NSS 12 Evo 3. EVO.
Is that device known as a multifunctional device?
Yes,
What are the multifunctions that it can do?
it can do a lot. It can display GPS data in several different ways. You can use like a traditional paper chart style view. You can use bird's eye imagery. You could do a combination of both. You can also display engine performance data. You can put like your tachometers.
I'm
or
glad
fuel
she's not letting the
gauges.
jury
Those
ask
can be
questions.
displayed. You can display sonar. You can display radar. You can use, you can play video through them. You can use them as an entertainment, like for playing music, and you can control all those through multifunction displays.
Would you tell the jurors, what was the condition of these SIMRAD devices when you first get them from FWC?
So they brought them up to me in a cooler full of water wrapped in a beach towel. And when I took them out of the water, there's no obvious physical damage, and I couldn't see. Sometimes you can see water in the LED screen. Couldn't see that, but the one in particular, when I rocked it back and forth, I could hear water sloshing back and forth.
Was that a surprise to you at all, that it would have water in it?
No. They are surprisingly resilient. I mean, I've seen some of these devices take really substantial impacts and be submerged in water. But in this case, this was obviously catastrophic, and it did get water. It was in the water for an extended period too.
In order to try to extract any data that may have been recorded or stored in those devices, can you tell the jurors what is it you had to do?
Well, first I had to see if I was even going to be able to do it, because if the GPS floods with water while it's energized, while there's electricity going through the circuits, it's going to blow up. The circuits are going to be fried, and that's beyond my scope of being able to repair it. I would have to send it out to a lab that I work with and do what's called chip-off extraction. It's much more tedious and expensive. But so my first step was I opened them up and inspected the interior components. I did not see any signs of any damage inside, other than they were wet. So I disassembled them, and I flushed them out with deionized water, and I have a desk-mounted magnifying glass. I went through and cleaned it all with alcohol and made sure there was no kind of debris on any of the circuits. And then I coated the boards with a product that's made specifically for it. It's essentially essentially a WD-40 for electronics.
And did those
I
steps
agree,
help guard
Michelle.
against any corrosion setting in
I
on
agree.
these SIMRAD devices?
I mean, one of my primary goals was to preserve the device. Yes,
Did these devices have serial numbers?
they did.
I bet you don't have them memorized.
No, I don't.
Could you tell us, though, what those are so we can be
Yes.
sure that we're talking about the same SIMRAD devices that Lieutenant Kumar has testified about?
Yep.
First, I'll ask you about the port device.
Sure. So the port device, which is the one on the left, the serial number was 118786787.
I'm so sorry for this woman's pigs.
And did you also make note of the serial number for the starboard
Yes,
SIMRAD
I
device?
did. It was 118786796.
I'm sorry, I didn't know this number.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm going to read all the way back. 118786796.
The record I'm showing is right now image 6. I'm going to read you a serial number. You tell me if this is the port or the starboard. The last two digits are 87.
Yes,
It's serial number 118786787.
yes.
Which device is that?
The port GPS.
And did you in fact see photographs of that exhibit?
I did.
Can you take a moment and tell us if this is, based on its serial number, the SIMRAD device that you analyzed?
Yes, this is the serial number here, and this is the model right there.
And this is the left port or the right starboard?
It's the left port.
Okay. And then directing our attention now to photograph 7. Is this the same serial number as for the starboard?
796, yes. And then the model right there.
Okay. When did you first try to recover data from those two SIMRAD devices?
It was a couple days later, so they need to dry. Once I have them all taken apart, and I put them out to dry. Let the components out to dry. There's a lot of different ways you can dry them. I'm pretty much an old school guy. Put them out with a fan down the crossing, and I knew that this was a very important. Like there was a lot riding on this case. I tried to get them up and running as soon as I could. So I gave it an attempt a couple days later, and I was able to retrieve data, but they were malfunctioning. So I didn't want to. I couldn't do a full, thorough analysis.
So what did you do at that point?
I let them dry longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you try again?
A couple of weeks later. Let's see there. So my first attempt was on September 13th, and then my full examination was on October 8th.
So on October the 8th of 2022?
Yes,
Were you in fact successful this time in extracting data from either of these two SIMRAD devices?
yes, they both powered up and function normally. You can see a little bit of like water damage in the screen of one of the devices, but otherwise worked as it should. And I went through and checked all the settings and then extracted the data.
When a device like this is first powered up, is there any kind of a warning to the user of this type of equipment that is given?
Typically there is. I think all the manufacturers have something like that.
Can you describe what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a disclaimer that says, use good judgment, don't use this as your only means of navigation, make safe decisions, stuff like that.
Kind of like if you turn on your car and the screen says,
Yeah,
be
keep
aware
your
of your
eyes,
surroundings.
keep your eyes on the road, and yeah, same type of thing. Once
you saw that these devices could power up, did you in fact then begin the process of downloading that data.
Yes,
Can you explain how you do that?
sure. It's really not hard. All of the data is stored internally on a memory chip, and it's just a few keystrokes through the menu. You just have to know which menu items to pick, and you save it all onto an SD card. In this case, I think it's a micro SD card.
Okay. Do you have what's known as an evidence copy and a working copy of SD cards?
Yes,
Can you explain the difference?
sure. So my normal practice and what I teach everybody is you want to preserve the data in its original form so that anybody else that's looking at it later will reach the same conclusion that you are. And so what I do is I download the data onto an SD card, and then I pull that out, and I would typically plug it into my computer just to make sure that I was successful. And I don't even open the file. I just make sure that the file is on the card, and then I provide that to the investigator in this case, and that's their evidence copy that they I believe typically create a new evidence number and enter that into their evidence system. And then I do the same process again for what I call a working copy, and that's the copy that I'm going to keep and plug into my computer and upload onto my computer and analyze the data.
Now, once you get that data, do you just, I don't know, open the card and it tells you what the last trails of the boat were?
No.
Is there some analysis of that data that has to take place?
There is.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what is it that you have to analyze in order to get relevant information, like what was the speed or the distance or the heading of a vessel on a given date and time?
Sure. So first of all of the GPS manufacturers use their own proprietary file format. So in a lot of cases, you plug it in, your computer is not even going to recognize what the file type is. So you have to know which programs to use and how to get it into a usable format. And then you can, it's not terribly difficult to put it into, say, Google Earth, or in my case, I use Garmin Basecamp, which is my program of choice for downloading and analyzing data. And you can visually see the track lines on a map or on a Google Earth image, but what matters is the details. So each one of these track points, so the device generates track points, and the track points are what store the date and time and speed and direction and that type of thing.
Now, if a person was not experienced in interpreting the data that came from a GPS device like the SIMRA device, would that person potentially run the risk of being inaccurate in describing the speed, the heading, the time and location of where the actual track points are?
They could certainly make wrong conclusions.
Now, what about if a person does know how to interpret that data? Could that person deliberately misinterpret it to give an inaccurate representation of where that vessel had traveled?
The programs that I'm using that I teach other people to use are civilian grade, like consumer level programs. Garmin Basecamp, which is an amazing tool for analyzing stuff, literally is a free download from the Garmin site. Anybody can get, right? But it doesn't have the protections built into it that like computer forensic software does. And so an unscrupulous examiner could alter the data.
Now, just so we can kind of get a better sense of what's actually happening when a GPS device is on a boat as it's navigating its way, if that device is turned on and is working properly, can you explain the method by which we are getting these track points that we've been talking about? How is it that somehow a satellite knows where that vessel is?
Well, the satellites don't know.
Okay.
So when you turn on a GPS, it starts listening for signals from the satellites. And once it hears enough signals from the satellites, the GPS device can calculate its position on the face of the Earth. In 3 dimensions, it can calculate altitude as well. And most GPSs, most modern GPSs, once it is established its location, will start recording where it is and where it has been. And so even though most of us use GPSs to navigate from one place to another, it's also like a data logger that's recording where you have been. And that can be important for boaters because sometimes you need help getting back to where you started from. It's not like on the road, right? And so it will drop track points along the way, kind of like a digital breadcrumb trail of where the device has been.
What is it that causes a track point to be dropped into the device?
It depends. There's 3 different ways. There's you can set your device to drop track points by time. And so you can go, like when you buy a GPS, you can go into the menu when you're setting it up and getting it going the first time. You can set it up so that it drops track points on time, and you can select the intervals from like literally 1 second intervals out to hours or even days. The other option is for distance. So the device will drop a track point every time it measures that it's traveled X number of feet, X number of miles, so on and so forth. But the overwhelming majority of people use it right out of the box in the factory default mode. And the different manufacturers call it different things, but it's basically an auto, like Garmin calls it resolution. I think Simrad calls it auto, Garmin calls it resolution. And essentially what that does is it tries to maximize the space available for storing track data. And each manufacturer has their own like secret sauce, like a formula to decide when to automatically drop track points. And the one thing they all have in common is that the track points are dropped based on changes in speed and direction.
When you examined the port or the left Simrad device, were there any historical track lines, meaning from prior to the date of this crash, which was September 4th of 2022?
Yes, there was a substantial amount of historical data.
And when you looked at that data, were you able to see overall where that vessel had been traveling with that port Simrad device operating?
Yes.
Where?
Pretty much the same area over and over again. Northern Key Largo, Biscayne Bay, up to Elliott Key.
Let me show you an exhibit that is states number 2 in evidence. May the witness step down, Your Honor. When you examined that Simrad device, were you able to see historical tracks of where that Robalo vessel had traversed?
Yes.
And when did those tracks begin?
I'd have to,
Okay.
I'd have to check.
Go ahead.
The earliest was December of 2021.
Okay. And so there's historical track marks. Can you show us on this exhibit where those track marks went?
Yeah. So Ocean Reef Club is down here. So there's a lot of traffic around Ocean Reef Club on both sides of Key Largo, the northern tip of Key Largo. There was, I think, one track that went further down Key Largo, but most of the tracks were in and around Ocean Reef Club and then up to Elliott Key, right around the Elliott Key Ranger Station up here.
Now, seeing all of those track marks that went from the Ocean Reef area up to Elliott Key, are you familiar with Billy's Point? Have you heard of Billy's Point?
I've heard of it.
Okay, and is this area around here where I'm pointing to the orange dot, would that be consistent with some of those historical track marks you've seen?
There were, yeah, all the traffic data was around here and coming up to this same area.
Now, you indicated before that you've been through this Cutter Bank channel, correct?
Yes.
So would that indicate to you whether or not the operator of that vessel would have familiarity with where the channel markers are for Cutter
We
Bank
call it
channel?
local knowledge. So yes, I mean, based on historical data, not just from that device, but the other one, there was, the operator of both had a substantial amount of local knowledge.
When you analyzed the port device, did you note whether on September the 4th of 2022, there were track points that were logged in?
Yes, there was.
About how many track points were there for that day?
I don't know if I noted that. There was 1,800 something.
I think you noted it.
Did I note it? Okay, let me see here. 1,889 track points covering 26 miles.
Can you tell the members of the jury what time did that device first log a track point?
2:52 p.m.
Okay. Where did that track point originate?
It was in one of the residential canals and one of the waterways inside Ocean Reef Club.
From there, what did the GPS tell you where that vessel went?
It left the residential waterway, and then there's a channel leading away from Ocean Reef Club out to open water on the Atlantic side, went out that channel, and then turned to the left and went into Angelfish Creek.
Okay. Would you be able to show the jurors using this chart, states exhibit number 2,
Yes.
on September the 4th, starting at 2:52? What was the route that that vessel took? You can just back up a little bit so all of us
Sorry.
can see it.
Okay. So Ocean Reef Club is right here. So the boat leaves from Ocean Reef and then turns left and then comes in there's a marked channel. You can see there's a few channel markers here, comes through Angelfish Creek and then turns in a generally north direction and goes up, goes through Cutter Bank and then up towards the ocean.
Did you prepare exhibits to show where those track marks were superimposed on actual images of that area?
I did, yes.
Judge, may I have permission to just allow the witness to come down without asking me? We're gonna go through some exhibits next, right? Let's start with image number 8 on this exhibit. Can you explain to the members of the jury what this shows?
Yes, so this is the track line data that was generated on the day of, on September 4th.
Before you get too far, what are these little blue, like, arrow marks that we see?
So the blue arrow marks are actually the track points that were generated by the GPS. And then the line that connects the points, those are generated by the software. So you might see sections where the boat turns, where it's not like a smooth turn, it's going from point to point. That's because the yellow line, although when it's going straight, it's a very accurate representation of where the boat went. Not always perfect. So each one of these track points is generated by the GPS. For each one of these track points, I was able to recover the date and the time and the speed and the direction of the boat's travel.
And so we're coming out here from Ocean Reef, and then what is this that we see when it hooks down?
I mean, it's just following the contour of the shoreline around the bend here. What's typical with Simrad. So Simrad is made by a company called Navco, and they also have Lorraine GPS and DD GPS. And they are, one of the things that you'll notice is that they generate a lot of track points when the device senses changing direction. So you can see here where there's not too many along here because the boat's going straight, and then here when he's maneuvering, he's dropping a bunch of track points, and they go straight again, and then go. And you can see some of these are really slow speed because this one is a square and this one is a triangle. There's a threshold that determines whether, you know, the way that the software shows it. I think it's 3 miles an hour, so if it's, it might be 5, but when it's going really slow, you might drop a square, or show it, display it as a square, and then when it's moving, you'll show it as a triangle, like an arrow pointing direction.
Next, image number 9. And ask if you can explain to the jurors what this represents in terms of the track that the Ravala vessel took on September 4th.
Sure, so it's like a higher level view. This is where we left off, right here, but now you can see they follow the shoreline down here, and then this is these red and greens represent channel marker locations. These are non-coastal waterway markers. These are private navigation aids. Ocean Reef probably installed. So the boat went through the channel markers and then turned left and headed towards Anglefish Creek.
What would be the reason for not just cutting off this way? Would you have a shorter distance?
Sure, this is all shallow water right here.
Okay. Now, toward the top of the screen, we see some blue track marks. Can you mark on those?
Yep. You can see when he accelerated here, and the spacing is generally far apart because it's going straight. And then here you can see, he initiates a turn, and so there's lots of track points. And then he slows down as he's entering Anglefish Creek. It's pretty narrow, and there's shallow water on both sides.
And are there actual channel markers through Anglefish Creek?
There are. That's what the red and greens are representing.
Now showing exhibit number 10.
Yep.
Can you walk us through what this represents regarding that Ravala vessel?
The red and green represent channel markers. You can pretty clearly see the water, the darker green, the deeper water, and this is like black. This is the northern tip of Ocean Reef Club, and so you can see the red where you typically stay closer to the red channel marker, and the boat cuts across cuts the curve here, and then heads west through Anglefish Creek.
Now showing exhibit number 11.
Yep.
Can you describe for us what this exhibit represents?
This is a zoomed in section of Cutter Bank. Unfortunately, I didn't label the channel markers there, but this is the Ravala northbound track, and you can see the boat left the channel here a little bit. You can see again he's turning, so there's lots of track points. He's turning back to straight his course. There's a lot of track points that are spread out. And then he passes this marker here, and then he kind of maneuvers out to the right, and most likely he's just going around slower boats. Yeah.
Okay, now, you just described number 11, now let's go to number 12. Area near Billy's Point.
Yep.
Does this accurately represent the data that you received from that Simrad device about the Ravala's travels on September 4th of 2022?
Yes.
Can you walk us through what we're looking at here up until the point where we get to arrival at 323? Where are we here?
Cutter Bank channel would be just off the screen. It would be like down here. This is the Robalo arriving at Cutter Bank and wider space in here. And then-
Wait, at Cutter Bank?
I'm sorry, no, at Elliott Key from Cutter Bank. And then the boat comes up here to Elliott Key, slows down in this area, and then lots of track points along here. As the boat is moving at really slow speed, like drifting out along this section of Elliott Key.
Now, you indicated earlier that the initial track points that you got were from 2:52 p.m.
That's when they started, yes.
Okay, and so by 3:23, so about a half an hour or so later,
Yes.
the Robalo is now near Elliott Key, fair to say?
Yes.
Is that indicative to you of a vessel that's traveling full throttle?
I mean, it's a good clip, good, it's quite a few miles up, I think it's 15 miles to get up. Here, I have to measure it out, but it's moving along. Yep.
So now you have indicated on here that there is a stop at 3:47 p.m. What does that stop signify?
Well, it stopped generating data, so probably just turned GPS on.
And when do we see the GPS coming back on?
Around 6:18.
Okay, so we have that vessel then apparently in the same location as where it stopped.
Yep.
What about 4 hours, give or take,
2.5.
2.5 hours after?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, you
Three,
indicated,
sorry.
pardon?
Three if you start down here.
Okay,
Yeah,
so from 2:52, when the Robalo vessel is first tracked,
Mhm.
up to 6:18, that represents the time in total up in, before he starts heading back down. Would that be fair to say?
yes.
Can you explain to the jurors, why do you say depart 6:18 p.m.?
That's when the GPS started logging tracks that the boat was pulling away from the island.
Okay. And what, if anything, do you notice in the difference between the track heading back south to the track heading up north toward the Elliott Key location?
Well, these here, these were all generated at really slow speeds, and sometimes the GPS has a hard time calculating its direction when it's going really slow, so it's using direction to decide when to drop track points. So it's dropping a lot of track points along here, it's going really slow. But now he's going on a straight course and traveling at a consistent speed, the spacing gets much longer.
All right, now looking at image number 13, can you walk us through these notes, ICW marker 13, 12, 13A? Did you put those on this as a way to show the
did.
jurors and put
Yes.
them landmarks?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it that this exhibit is showing us regarding the travel initially northbound and then southbound for the channel?
So this Google Earth image, and the Google Earth image has the track data projected onto it. And then I save the image, put it into PowerPoint to put in like these little icons for representing the channel marker locations. And these are accurate locations on the light list, on the Coast Guard's light list. And then I put in this call out to identify this ICW mark 13, this ICW mark 12. This is the track line of the Robalo going north. And then this is the track line of the Robalo coming south.
What's doing, Shadow?
One second. So you can see, you can also clearly see that the channel in this particular image, that's the darker water, pretty clearly delineated, and then these channel markers, this is shallower up here.
Okay, now showing you the exhibit that's labeled number 14.
Yep.
Can you walk us through what this represents?
Yep.
Excuse me 1 second, Judge. I have one voir dire question on the publication of this exhibit.
Go ahead, counsel.
Good afternoon. The green and red markers that are depicted on the screen, those are not to scale, correct?
They're not to scale, no.
Thank you, Judge.
If you look really carefully, you can actually see the shadow of the channel marker. Let's see it right there. You can see it right there.
Okay, so as of 6:37 and 19 seconds, what is the speed of that revolver?
43.
Okay. Now, as it's heading southbound, is there, and that is at that track point, that's the second to last track point before what?
The second to last track point before the collision with the channel marker.
Okay.
The previous slide that you showed with marker 12 and 13 would be kind of.
All right, so now, we have the second to last track point, 43 miles per hour.
Yep.
When we see heading 216, what does that mean?
That is just the compass heading from this track point back to the last track point.
When we get to this track point, right before channel marker 15, what is the speed of the vessel?
47. That's what the GPS log is, 47.
Any track points between the one at 6:37 and 19 seconds and the one at 6:37 and 28 seconds?
No.
What does that indicate to you?
It was maintaining a consistent proportion.
No attempt to deviate one way or the other from that channel marker?
Correct.
Would you call this a collision course with that channel marker?
Yes.
Sustained.
Regarding that 9-second time that went by from the second to last track mark to the last one before impact, how many feet did that vessel travel?
620 feet.
What is the measurement, or how many feet is a football field?
300 feet, 100 yards.
So in terms of football fields, which maybe is a little bit easier for people to, I guess, imagine, how many football fields did that Robalo travel from the second to the last track point before impact?
A little over 2.
Can we get an image number on this one?
15. I want to ask you a question. So for this amount of time, this is how that vessel was traveling. I'm starting my clock now.
Oh God, give him the clock.
So that's how long that vessel was on
She's obsessed with those 9 seconds.
channel marker 15.
Yes.
It takes me 9 seconds to pick up something off the floor. That's not a long time.
I'm so sorry. I do want to back this. One more question from photo number 14. Post-impact with that channel marker. I see a bunch of track points here.
Yep.
Can you explain to the jurors what that's representing about?
When it hits the marker, it essentially comes to almost full stop, and then the remaining momentum and potentially the engine still running or pushing it forward. This is just representing the movement of the boat after the impact of the marker.
Judge, is there at some point a washroom break to be Possible?
This would be a good time.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a comfort break. Please put your notepads and silent envelope and leave them on the chairs if you would. For 10 minutes, do not discuss the case.
All rise.
I hate being caught up with the live. Are we caught up with the live? Now we're caught up with the live. I hate breaks when I'm caught up with the live because
I'm all right for now.
I have nothing to talk about. Oh, I do have another funny X-Files story.
You know what I've been doing?
Except we got hot mics in the courtroom.
On my break, you know what I've been doing? Going in the 2-hour courtroom. The jury room in there. Yeah, it's good. This one.
I guess I'll just sit here and let the hot mics take care of the break. I need to text Travis and tell him to bring me home some more pop. Do labor here seek only truth? No, I don't think so. Yes, I do still diamond paint, Jill. Right now I'm working on a Sleeping Beauty. I'll go get it and show you. Oh, cool. I was afraid you weren't going to be able to make out Maleficent at the top. Because when it's on the light, you have to put it on a light board to be able to see it when you're putting the diamonds on there. And it just looks, everything looks black up here. I couldn't see Maleficent at all. But you can make her out. Oh, that's her raven on her shoulder. Okay. You almost can't make anything out when it's on the light board. Oh! And there's the spinning wheel. cool. I have not even noticed the detail. And that's the needle of the spinning wheel. I had not even noticed the details to it yet. Kind of like a surprise. Yeah, but I've been working on those the crochet animals or characters for that fundraiser for so long. Now I'm just making them for fun, so there's no pressure. So I'm working on Jesse. But before, it was like I got tired of crocheting. I've never gotten tired of crocheting before in my life. And I actually stopped. And I didn't want to even look at any yarn. But I started back and Maleficent, guess what, Jill? Maleficent's my favorite villain too. Didn't see that one coming, did you?
Yeah. Oh, okay, okay. So nothing urgent. Okay. Got it.
Well, what happened? This is a view we haven't seen before. Yeah, Jafar is hilarious. I do like Jafar. There's a show, um, I tried to stream it one time and it did not work very well. Um, there will be other times, I'm sure, but it's called Un. Oh, is it Unfairly Ever After? I think it's Unfairly Ever After. But it's a show where it's like the villains are trying to come out of the magic mirror. And 3 of them make it out. I don't know how they got trapped in the magic mirror. Anyway, 3 of them make it out. It's a stage show at Disney's Hollywood Studios. And it's Maleficent, Captain Hook, and Cruella de Vil. And the audience decides by applause which one is the most misunderstood villain. And I have seen all 3 of them win at one time or another. But I think that Cruella de Vil is evil and should never, ever never ever win, because she's not misunderstood. She's evil. She tried to turn puppies into a coat or a dress or whatever. That's evil. She's not misunderstood. Now, it's been a while since I've seen Peter Pan, so I'm not exactly sure, but he got his hand cut off and fed to a crocodile that he was in fear of for the rest of his life. So, I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, kids that never grow up probably drive him nuts. So maybe Captain Hook, but Maleficent, she's my favorite because she just wanted to be invited to the party. And she was mad because she wasn't included. And I can relate to that. So I like Maleficent. She was just mad because she wasn't included. She overreacted, but she was misunderstood. So I like it when Maleficent wins at that show. So next time I go, I'm going to try to stream it. And hopefully, yes, the great late Robin Williams, every time I hear that song sung by him, I'm like, yes. I mean, I thought Will Smith did a good job in the live action movie, but nobody plays the genie like Robin Williams. He tried to take over another man's kingdom, though. I don't know. But somebody said, well, several people have said that would be a better show if they had more villains than just 3 to pick from. I did watch Once Upon a Time. I liked it until, well, okay. The guys that did Once Upon a Time also did Lost. So what happened is they didn't want to end it when it should have ended. They wanted to keep going. They did the same thing with Once Upon a Time. You got to end it where it ends. Some stories aren't meant to just keep going and going and going and going. They get stupid. Some stories just end up having a natural ending, and you got to end it where it ends. And I didn't even keep watching it because it got stupid. And my stepdaughter kept telling me, well, now they're doing this and now they're doing that. And I'm like, I'm not watching it anymore. Abu? Yeah. Okay, this is Galadriel. She has a head somewhere. There's Galadriel. I just have to attach her head. There's Gimli. I got lots of heads separated from bodies. But I got the bodies. Oh, wait. Who was this? I don't know whose body this is. Oh, this must be Gandalf's body, because there's a hat. Whose body is this? I don't know whose body. I'll figure it out, Jill. You're gonna get them all when they're done. One day, you might have to come to Florida to get them. I've got Gimli, Galadriel. Is this Aragorn's body? Does that look right? I don't know. I have no idea. Or is it Frodo's? It might be Frodo's body. Is that Frodo's body? I thought I had Frodo done. So that might be Frodo's body. I don't know. I was working on them and I got sidetracked. Oh, wait. No, this is Aragorn's body, I think. And here's the Bible that I bought you. The devotional 365 days a year thing, whatever. And this is the box I'm going to mail it in when I get it done.
I think maybe about 30 minutes, including publishing.
Isn't it great having a friend with ADHD? Oh, yeah. Legolas is in there somewhere. I may have to start over. Oh, see, that was after I quit watching. When it started being weird. Like it was really good, and then it got weird, and I was like, nope. Yeah. They should have ended it. There was a certain part where everything was resolved, and they needed to stop it, and they didn't. I was like, nope.
All right, everyone, please be seated. Thank you.
May I continue now? Thank you. Mr. Hoffman, if you can sit down for a moment. Sure. I know that you've indicated that we see the southbound movement of the Robalo on what would be facing the street on the right-hand side. Can you explain for us, what is it that we're seeing on the left-hand side, this left track?
This is the Robalo's northbound track as he was heading up from Ocean Reef up to LA. So the track is here, you can see the close spacing as rounding the corner here, and then it gets much wider from here to here as opposed to
Now, in terms of the last track mark and the second to last track mark, I see that you indicate that there are two different speeds. Can you tell us what, if anything, that indicates was happening by the operator of that vessel?
yes.
Objection, speculation.
Would this speed of 43 at the second to last track mark and the last speed at the last track mark before it cracked at 47, would that be consistent with the operator of the vessel accelerating through the channel?
Yes.
Would that be consistent with the vessel speeding up simply because it's hitting shallower water?
The depth of the water doesn't impact the speed of the boat.
Now, when we look at these post-impact track marks where the engine is still running, are you familiar with an item called a kill switch?
An engine cutoff switch?
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes referred to as a kill switch, yes? Can you explain to the jurors what that is?
Objection, relevance.
It's typically a lanyard that an operator would connect to, a belt loop or something on their body, and it is connected to a switch on the console. So if the operator were to leave or reject it or remove from behind the console, it shuts the engine off.
Now, the fact that the vessel is still moving, does that indicate to you that a kill switch was on anybody that was operating that vessel?
Potentially one was not used.
Come back to this in a minute. I want to ask you some more questions about the visibility of channel marker 15. I'm not sure if the screen. Is everybody able to see the witness over here? Is channel marker 15 visible from the second to last track mark that you indicated?
Clearly, yes.
Is it your understanding on the day that this crash occurred?
Either
that
she's
there were
short or
any
he's really
weather
tall.
difficulties that would have obscured the view?
There were none.
What about sea conditions?
Sea conditions were generally calm, like chalk in the water.
Now, in evaluating the GPS data from those SIMRAD devices, were you able to see historical data, meaning prior times when that vessel had run through this location?
Yes.
I'm showing image number 16. Is that now? You see a whole bunch of blue dots here. Can you explain to us what is it that we're looking at here?
Sure. This is the actual data that I'm kind of showing you on the nautical part over there earlier. This is Ocean Reef Club here, and these are all the track points that were saved in the device from December 2021 up until the day of the incident. So you can see lots of travel in and out of the club here, in and out of the club on the other side. There was one trip further down, but the majority of the tracks show traveled up to LSD.
Were you able to isolate any data to substantiate whether the operator of that vessel had ever actually navigated past channel marker 15?
You've been by through Courtroom channels dozens of times.
Now moving to exhibit number 17 on this. Can you explain to the jurors, what does this represent?
This is all the, excuse me, this is all of the track data from the port GPS that documented his travels past marker 15, the entrance to southern end of Courtroom channel.
So based on the number of times that vessel had traversed past channel marker 15, would you expect the operator of the vessel to be aware of its location right there?
Yes.
Okay.
And just for the yellow is the date of the incident. In review of historical.
I see this kind of curling shape. That looks familiar.
That's,
What is that from?
That's a post-accident, post-incident travel or movement of the boat, moved away from the marker after impact.
Now, we've been talking about the port SIMRAD device. Did you get any data from the starboard SIMRAD device documenting where that vessel was on September the 4th, 2022?
There was none.
Does that mean it wasn't working?
No.
Does that mean you didn't somehow successfully extract that data?
Remember,
No,
we had
I
Lakes
successfully
Sky.
extracted it. There was a lot of historical data. It just wasn't being used. It just wasn't generating track data on the day of the incident.
You earlier indicated that these SIMRAD devices are like multifunctional.
Yes.
Would it be consistent that perhaps the port GPS was activated on the SIMRAD, but that the starboard side SIMRAD was being used for some other purpose.
It could, the way he had the system configured could have played a role in whether or not it was generating data.
So like if hypothetically it was being used to play music or something like that, a decision might have been made that I don't need two devices tracking GPS. I want to use this other device for something other than GPS.
Objection, speculation.
Could that starboard side SIMRAD device have been used to play music?
Yes,
Now, I want to ask you, do you know the man seated at the end of that table? For the record, I'm indicating to the defendant, the man with the blue shirt and the blue tie.
I know who he is, but I don't have any personal knowledge of him or his family.
Did you ever meet a young woman by the name of Lucy Fernandez or anybody, or have any involvement with her family?
No.
Did you know any of the girls who were on the defendant's vessel on September the 4th of 2022?
No.
Are you getting paid for your work in this case?
I am.
And who's paying you?
You are.
Me personally?
Well, the Office of the State Attorney is paying me, and Fish and Wildlife paid me to do the initial report.
So you're being paid by the government to do work in this case?
Yes.
I want to transition for a moment and ask you if you've ever heard of a term, a speed spike.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let
Okay.
me move you to the next exhibit here.
Okay.
Do you recognize the exhibit that's number 18?
I do.
Okay. Does this data represent
Forgive me, what image are we on?
18?
Thank you.
He was like, "Ooh, I like his tie."
Down here, so we can kind of go over this.
He just zoomed right in. "Ooh, nice tie, dude."
Is this a chart that reflects data that was obtained from the Rawala vessel from September 4th of 2022?
This is essentially a spreadsheet. All the individual track points listed out in the order that they're generated by the device. And so this is the track point number, and these are the distances, time, speeds, force of travel, the time, and then the latitude and longitude.
The times that are given, are these in military time or ordinary time?
So these look like they're the spreadsheet is in military time.
Okay, now earlier you testified that there were, I think, 1,889 track points generated for September the 4th of 2022.
Yes.
Now, we're not looking right now at almost 2,000 track points, right? So this is just a snippet of some of that data?
It is.
Okay, and of this snippet, what time does it start? In regular time, not military time?
58 seconds after 6:27 p.m.
And for this exhibit, when does the track points stop? What's the last time for that track point?
I think the last digit is 6, but it's definitely 6:35 and 26 seconds.
Okay, now, in this particular situation, what was the time of the last track mark before striking the channel marker?
Sure. Six 37:28.
Okay, so this is 6:35 and 26 or 8.
Yes.
So this is a couple of minutes prior to the impact. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to point out to you that I'm looking at the check that says 1808. I see that there's a number 53,
Yes.
and above that is 41.
Mhm.
Does this indicate to you that this vessel has the capability of accelerating from 41 miles per hour to 53 miles per hour in as little as a half a second
2 seconds.
or 2 seconds?
No.
Can you explain to the jurors, how do we wind up with a speed like that?
Yes. Can I
With
use that?
using a
Sure.
tablet help you?
Yep. remember is that these speeds are not a snapshot of exactly how fast that boat was going at 6:33:09. These are calculated speeds based on the distance and the time that it traveled from one point to the next point. So something like this. Time, speed, distance, formula. If you have any two of the components of this triangle, you can calculate for the third. So for the speed calculations on this column here, they're using the distance from one track point to the next, and the time that it took to travel from one track point to the next.
I
Thing
wasn't
with
told
these
there'd be math.
calculations are the GPS system when it's calculating your position, the latitude and longitude, measures time in nanoseconds, or billionths of a second. When it's calculating your speed, though, it's using a very simple timepiece. This is an atomic clock that's on the GPS satellites. This is a very simple timepiece that's inside your GPS device, and it keeps time in whole seconds, right? So the device is calculating the speed based on the distance traveled divided by the time. And what you'll notice when you have longer track intervals, like here, 23 seconds, 9 seconds, 11, 45, the speeds are all pretty consistent, right? They're all in the upper 30s to 40 right here, coming down. But here, the leg speed is 2 seconds. Down here, it's only 1. So what happens sometimes, what you'll see when you're analyzing these devices, is the device might drop a track point at an uneven interval. So say it drops it at 1.4 seconds. Well, the system's not keeping track of the fractions of a second, so it'll round it down to 1 second. And then the next track line, it could be 1.5 seconds. Sorry, I'm handwriting. In which case, it would round it up to 2 seconds. So you're taking the speed calculation and the distance, and you're literally doubling the time in this example that you're using to divide. So it's radically changing the final outcome, like here for 53 seconds with a 2-second interval, and here at 76 with a 1-second interval. These 1-second intervals are not great for identifying speed. You want to look at like a longer distance with a longer track interval.
Now, if someone did not understand the way that the software will calculate the speeds,
Yes.
could it then appear to somebody that does not understand the interpretation of this data, that this vessel would be able to travel from about 39 miles an hour to 76 miles per hour that quickly?
What you're seeing here, these track points were right at the north end of Cutter Bank as the Robalo was navigating. The operator is making some changes in direction as he's entering the channel. And you can see 2, 4, 1-second intervals right here. And that's why you see these swings. If you actually took those numbers and you averaged across all 4 or 5 of them, guess what happens? It smooths out to a more reasonable speed.
Is this an error on the part of the GPS data or device?
It's not an error, it's just you're pushing the limitations of the device's ability when you're dropping track points, when you're going, the faster you're going, the bigger this discrepancy is going to be. So at slow speed, a 1-second interval might not be that bad, but when you're going fast, faster you're going, the bigger the change is going to be.
And so it looks like the speed here is spiking, but that's not in fact what's happening, is it? It's just the calculation of what the speed is dependent on how long the vessel travels between a leg from one point to the next.
Yes, and I should also point out too, like, it's not using 155 feet for one calculation, and then 3/10 of a mile on the next. These are being displayed just because there's 4 or 5 placeholders in this column right here. It's using the actual measurement in feet from one to the next.
Do you know a person by the name of Brian Emond?
Yes.
Did you do a download or provide assistance to him to download those SIMRAD devices that were taken into custody in this case?
I didn't assist him, so to speak. He was unable to unlock the PIN code on the device, so I assisted him in unlocking the device, but I was present when he downloaded the GPSs.
Were there any attorneys for Mr. Pino present when this took place?
Yes.
And
I didn't
who was it
assist
that
him, so to
brought the
speak,
actual
but I
SIMRAD
assisted him.
devices to Mr. Emond to examine the data? on
Words
those?
are hard.
Lieutenant Thompson.
Has Mr. Emond ever taken your GPS data courses?
He has actually.
Okay. Do you know a person by the name of Christopher Cairns?
Yes,
Is he actually in the courtroom today?
he is.
Can you just point to him?
Yeah,
Not that he's on trial or anything.
No, he's at the defense table right there.
Okay.
We'll stipulate.
Okay. Was he present when Mr. Emond did the download of the SIMRAD devices?
No.
Has he ever taken any of your GPS data courses?
He has not.
I want to now take you to the date of June 9th, 2025, just a little over a year ago.
Okay.
Did you assist with the attempt to recreate the conditions, speed, et cetera, of the vessel crash that you documented with GPS data regarding this Robalo and channel marker 15?
Yes.
Can you explain to the members of the jury what steps were taken to try to, as closely as possible, redo that crash without actually resulting in a crash?
Sure.
Let me move this out of the way a little bit so you can. Go ahead.
I have a set of red buoys, and I have found over the years that it is extremely helpful to go out, to actually go to the scene and put buoys on the latitude and longitude coordinates of the individual track points. Because it's one thing to look at it on a Google Earth image from a bird's eye view. It's completely different to go out to the scene and actually see everything in 3 dimensions. So what we did, we brought the buoys out and we used GPS, one of my personal handheld GPS, and we deployed 2 buoys, the one immediately before impact, and then the second to last buoy prior to impact.
Now, is going on a boat from like 43 to 47 miles per hour anything like being in a car going from 43 to 47 miles per hour?
It's hard to compare cars and boats. They're vastly different.
What's the difference when you're on a boat going at that speed?
So cars steer from the front, boats steer from the back. So like when you turn the wheel on the boat, it doesn't turn the front, it pushes the back, right? There's no brakes. And even on the best day, it's loud. You have 600 horsepower, 12 cylinders roaring behind you. You have the wind in your face. You have at minimum, some vibration depending on the sea condition for the day. There's a lot of differences.
Okay, so like what do these buoys look like that you're dropping to try to, mark where these 2 last track points are prior to impact?
It's just a 12-inch styrofoam buoy, and it's got a fiberglass rod through it. It's got a reflector and a red flag on it. The bottom of it is weighted, and So when we got out to the scene, I measured the depth, and I had a weight on the end of the line. And so I wanted to, as closely as possible, approximate the depth so there wasn't a lot of swing back and forth when the buoy's floating above the anchor. And so I had Lieutenant Thompson position us as close as possible to the latitude and longitude position using my GPS. So I was sitting on, we're not using the vessel GPS, we're using my GPS for me sitting on the back of the boat. And I'm guiding him to the exact latitude and longitude coordinates that were recorded by the GPS, and I dropped the buoy there. And then we dropped the, that was the second to last, and then we moved up and did the, if I'm remembering the right order, and then we moved up and dropped the buoy right near the channel marker, which was the one immediately prior to collision.
And then was Lieutenant Thompson there with you?
Yes,
And who was piloting this vessel?
Lieutenant Thompson.
And just in total, how many people were on the vessel for this recreation?
3.
Were these people all wearing personal flotation devices?
Yes.
You didn't have 14 people on the vessel?
No.
Were you and Lieutenant Thompson out drinking beers prior to this exercise?
No.
Once Lieutenant Thompson begins to pilot the vessel through the Cutter Bank channel toward those buoys that you had placed using GPS, was he able to accelerate the vessel to 43 miles per hour at the first buoy that one would pass by, and then up to almost 47 miles per hour at the second buoy right next to the channel marker?
So we actually started quite a bit further north up the channel. And so we were already traveling at 43 when we passed marker 13A and when we passed the buoy. And then once we passed the buoy, Lieutenant Thompson accelerated the boat up to 47 miles an hour as we passed in close proximity to marker 15 and the other buoy.
Was any kind of photography used to document these passes through the channel?
Yes, several different.
Can you describe for the jury?
So I was using my GoPro camera, and we made multiple runs putting the camera in different locations. And we also had the Miami-Dade Marine unit out there with one of their drone pilots who was flying a drone above us.
At any point, did you film one of these runs with the camera attached to the starboard stern or the rear right side of the vessel?
Yes.
Why did you think it was important to put a camera at that location of the vessel?
I thought it was relevant to see what it looked like looking down the starboard side, the side that was impacted.
Did you also place a GoPro camera from the vantage point of right in front of the center console on the windshield?
Yes. I mean, I would love to have had it from the operator's perspective, but the console on the FWC boat is nothing like Mr. Pino's boat. So we put it we stuck it with a suction cup on the windshield right in front of on the front side of the console, like down towards the bottom of the windshield, so it's not obstructing the view.
Would you think it would be prudent to put the camera in the line of sight of Lieutenant Thompson?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay. Was there another place that you placed that GoPro camera so that we could see the vessel approaching the channel marker?
Attached to the actual channel marker and recorded northbound perspective to see the boat approaching the marker.
Lieutenant, excuse me. Mr. Albert, you're here in your Albert consulting capacity, not
Yes.
lieutenant capacity. All right, I want to play for you, it's the exhibit labeled GoPro front of vessel with speed.
I'm not hearing.
What marker is this?
13A.
Laura, I didn't hear.
13A. That's 14. No, I'm moving it to 0.5.
Replay this, but stop it at certain points. Okay, right here. Can you point out any channel markers that are visible right now?
12 and 13.
All this trial has done is made me want to go vote.
I noticed, Mr. Albert, that up in the upper left-hand corner, there appears to be something like a speedometer.
Yes.
How did that get there?
The GoPro camera has built-in GPS. It calculates. And it has in the editing app, you can choose which features to show on the video. So I put the speed on.
Is this location essentially the entrance to the Cutter Bank channel as you're heading southbound?
No.
That would be further up to the north.
Yeah, so I mean, that was 12 and 13, and there's two pairs of markers north of that, 10 and 11, 8A and 9 further north. This is 13A right here, and you're just starting to come into view. This is 15 right here, straight ahead.
So we're not quite yet at 13A.
Correct. And this is 15 right here. This is 14 right here.
What is the red dot that we see here?
This is this is the mark. This is my marker representing second to last track point right here. This is 14 and that's 15.
Here is the second to last track mark. Where's channel marker 15?
Right here.
Right now, the counter is at 37 seconds. Let's see where it's at when we get up to channel marker 15 from 37. We're now at 47, so just about 9 or 10 seconds. Now, based on the GPS data that you obtained from the SINRAD device that were on that Robalo vessel, did the operator of the Robalo make any change in direction from that second to last buoy to this last buoy?
No.
Would the operator of that Robalo vessel have been able to see channel marker 15 from those locations
Yes.
if he was looking?
Objection calls for speculation.
Okay, now I'll show you another. This is going to be GoPro on channel marker. What are we looking at in this video?
This is Cutter Bank channel. This is 14. 13A, 13, and 12. And then you can see the boat right there.
And where is this camera affixed right now?
It's affixed on the right-hand side of the well, as we're looking on the right-hand side of the marker, on the side of the marker, east side of the marker.
Let's look at the run with the GoPro on the starboard stern. Hear a lot of noise. Is that consistent with the kind of noise that would be from the Robalo as it was making its way down the Cutter Bank Channel?
And it's different cold, but there's a lot of different. There's wind noise, there's engine noise, and there's noise from the water, breaking on the side of the boat.
We just passed the second to last buoy, correct?
Yes.
All right, we've got 26 seconds.
Marker 14.
So we've got 26 seconds on the counter. Let's see how long it takes us to get to channel marker 15. We've got 35 seconds. The vessel's just about to approach channel marker 15.
Yes.
That channel marker had been visible to the operator of the Robalo that entire time.
Yes.
At this point, where is the vessel? Is it still to the north of where we see channel markers 13, 13A?
Yes.
Do you know which channel markers these are that we're approaching here?
12 and 13.
What channel marker do we see now?
This is 13A, and over here is 14.
Right now we see the buoy.
Yes.
Does that represent the last time that any change in direction was had up until right before impact?
There is, it's not a big change in direction, but it was probably the combination of the change in direction and the increase in speed that triggered the device to drop that track point moving towards the next marker.
What was the name of that?
GoPro on windshield with speedometer.
Thank you.
Okay, we just have 2 more to give the jury an idea of what was recorded.
Technology.
It's almost like a video game. There we go.
Far better on the seat.
What? Old fashioned usually works. Okay, move on to wireless. Okay, as we're passing the buoy, the second to last track mark, your GoPro has what speed?
42.
And on the GPS device, what was the speed at the second to last track mark?
It logged at 43 miles an hour.
Okay, so 1 mile an hour difference.
It's not easy to exactly get the speeds on both.
Did the vessel accelerate somewhat between that last track point and as it approached the
Yes.
channel marker? Okay. Then the last one, multi-view, windshield and channel marker. Did you have the capability of actually doing like a picture-in-picture type of view, so we see 2 different views?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jurors what that was?
Again, you GoPro editing software, you can take one video and insert it in the other so that they both play like picture in picture. It's just an option there in your camera.
And they're synchronized so that
Yes.
you see at the same time?
Yes.
From the channel marker perspective, are we at this point able to see the boat coming?
Yes, the boat is right there, and marker 15 is right here.
So if these were living objects, they would be able to see one another.
Yes.
So we're going back to the innocent person seeing both at the same time. Mr. Albert, I have no other questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take our lunch break at this time. Please put your notebooks inside the envelope you can allocate to and give them to you during our lunch break. Before the break,
Don't cut the sound. Great. Now we don't know what time to be back. I think they have a rookie cameraman today that doesn't know what he's doing. Now we have no idea when to come back. They must have put the fear of God in them. Don't get the jurors on tape. On camera. On tape. I'm old. On camera. Don't get the jurors on camera. Whatever you do, don't get the jurors on camera. I'm guessing. Oh, but yeah, let's pan right over to the jury box. Jeez. This dude, if he's new, he's gonna lose his job on the first day. Oh, what? Is he putting his hand in front of the camera now? What is happening? Good gravy, Marie. I am old. I am old, Marty. I am old. Okay. Well. Okay. I have a meeting, a Zoom meeting that I have to go to. So let's come back at 2:30. Oh wait. They come back at 2. We come back at 2:30. That'll give us time to zoom through breaks and stuff. Yeah. We come back about 2:30, then I can zoom through breaks and sidebars and that kind of stuff. What? Court TV, what are you doing? I guess we're just gonna leave it there for... Oh my god, what is happening? Okay, guys, we'll start back at 2:30. I will see you then. Have a good lunch. Bye.